Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Marie Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry coming to you from two socially distant studios for now, but at the edge of the Great Red Divide. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 o'clock, we bring you all the progressive news and views that you can use. And you can catch all of our previous episodes at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com, on YouTube, every podcast platform, and proudly part of the Demcast USA network. And Murray, today we have a deeply democratic topic to discuss because if you're a Republican, you don't really give a crap if people earn decent wages, have safe work environments, have childcare, have care for elderly people. You don't care if we're burning up the ozone layer with fossil fuels. You don't care that people need to be retrained into new jobs. You don't care that the whole place is going to hell in a handbasket as long as you've got yours and they don't got anything. That's the Republican way. And somehow, Murray, they've convinced a bunch of poor people that are making less in my community, less than $47,000 a year, that that's good for them. I'm outraged. How can you be that dense? How can you be that dense that your average income in Marseilles, Illinois, where I live, is $47,299? The American Jobs Plan and Families Act that we're going to speak about today would put more money in people's pockets so that they could pay more bills, pay off their student loans, pay off their credit cards, pay off their car note, buy a house, have some money in the bank in case there's a rainy day. But Murray, there's a certain turtle at the head of the Senate that goes, oh, that's a really bad idea to have people have money so they don't have to collect Section 8 housing and food stamps. That's a very bad idea. So that's my Mitch McConnell.
It's a pretty good Mitch McConnell. And you're right, Heidi, but it goes so much farther than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there are tax cuts, there are help for families. And this is actually, I just want to let our listeners know that the plan we're talking about was introduced April 24th by the White House. And it's a $1.7 trillion plan that combines Biden's infrastructure plan, the Jobs Act, with the family plan, his Family Act. And so the White House said, hey, we're just going to combine the two of them together and call it a human infrastructure project.
Right.
And it is called the American Families Plan. So this includes, all of the bridges that need to be repaired, the pipes that need to be laid to get rid of lead. This includes credit for attending community colleges. This includes increasing electric charging stations, working toward energy independence. So this bill incorporates both of those two programs that they had together. And the Senate took a look at it, and of course, what did they do? They went, poo-poo, yucky you. They said, no, we don't want it. So they sent the White House back a $568 billion. $568 billion. Over $1 trillion less proposal saying, well, we agree to this. Well, isn't that big of you? And let's talk a little bit about history, right?
Yeah.
If we learn nothing from the Obama years, we must remember that Mitch McConnell's entire job was taking out, removing, gutting bills and still not voting for it.
Right.
So we know this is not happening right now. There's something being filibustered. And it's ridiculous. So we're going to go around to the filibuster. The Senate is kind of pointless at this point, and I think they should just step aside, because and here's the thing: watching the Biden White House handle the COVID rescue plan, the relief plan, right? So the first plan they put through without bipartisan support, I think taught them a lesson that they really don't need bipartisan support, that they're okay on their own. And so to come up with a $1.7 trillion bill when the bill was actually initially a $4 trillion bill is a lot of concessions on the Democrats' part.
Too many.
Agreed.
Far too many. You know,
Agreed.
Marie, the the thing that I'd like to point out is that the concessions that the Republican Party wants to make are mostly concessions revolving around the human condition, the lack of enough CNAs and nurses and nursing homes, the lack of home health care because it
Well, they
doesn't
don't
pay.
care about that.
Well, no, but so when you take those things away, what happens is workers, they're talking about, workers aren't going back to work. They can't afford to go back to work at a minimum wage job if they have to watch an aging parent, an aging grandparent,
Get
take
their
care of
kids through the
children.
summer.
Right. Yeah, they're just, and not to mention the fact that we've lost 615,000 people.
And there's bound to be trauma related to that. There's bound to be a
People out of the
collective
workforce,
trauma
Marie,
that we have to give people a little bit of time. If we valued people as
and we don't.
actual beings as
Yeah.
opposed to cogs in the capitalistic wheel that
The
propels
person that
mercenary
makes their
capitalism and
sandwich.
fiefdoms,
Yeah.
right? If we did that, then we would understand that this would be a good thing to help make our country whole as a whole again.
Yeah.
It'll also leave in place some things that will help people should we face another pandemic or another major crisis. And it's frustrating that I know we talked about this bill, the two separate bills. And we said we knew they'd put them together in one. I just didn't expect them to drop it as much. And I don't think they're going to drop it anymore. I really don't.
I think that if we look at this as a whole, and I understand the Republicans are saying, but you're talking about more than roads and bridges. That's all we're down for is roads and bridges. Well, okay, that's great, but we need so much more infrastructure than roads and bridges. We need health care. And I know one pundit was on the air the other day saying, yeah, but you're talking about putting what was it, $400 billion into expanding Medicare and Medicaid. Yeah, because people need health care. And part of the reason that they don't go back to work is because if you earn too much, you're going to go off Medicaid. If you're not old enough, you're not on Medicare. We need to fix that system so there's not leaking like a sieve all the time. People are tired of working all day for nothing. And then if they get COVID, there are people that have over $1 million in medical bills right now from catching a virus that could have been prevented had we not gutted the CDC, had we not stepped out of the World Health Organization, had we not impeded the process that was in place to prevent pandemics. And we can correlate the gutting of those things to the world's health, not just the U.S. health, but the world's health. And as we do the forensic data right now, as we go back the last year and a half and look at the COVID numbers, we know where we went wrong. And this bill provides a stopgap. So this can't be a problem again, Marie. It's just ridiculous that we have to keep doing the same stupid things and giving money to the ultra rich so they can buy another yacht rather than putting money in people's pockets.
Heidi, you just really nailed it there. You kind of summed it up. The point is to make us stronger as an individual and a nation, but that's not the point that Republicans see. Like we talked about, we've got all these governors cutting back federal unemployment benefits, stopping the extra $300 a week, and and it's funny because you mentioned not all the Republicans are against funding the plan, or they're against funding the plan through the tax increases, as GOP Senator, Mississippi Senator Roger Wicker said, if it touches any of the 2017 tax cuts, you won't get a single Republican vote. And then Pat Toomey piped in and said we could still do it without raising the taxes on the ultra wealthy or making corporations pay their own. We'll just take money away from the CARES, from the Relief Act that goes to cities and states to fund the infrastructure portion of the bill. So they're taking away funding. The
Yep.
Republicans' ideas are, instead of taxing the rich, right? Instead of taxing those money makers, which we know trickle down economics does not work. Reaganomics does not work.
Does not
And
work.
we still keep perpetuating this myth, and they keep driving it home. And this is exactly what these senators are saying, right? It's like, if you try to touch any of the tax cuts, not a single person's going to vote for it. And we can just take money we already gave you away and use it for what we want. And neither of those is okay, which is another reason why this bill needs to pass in its entirety.
Murray, the American public is down with more of a $4 trillion package, not this wimpy little $1.7 trillion package. And the Republicans are never going to let that through because
Heidi.
that means their big donors can't give them more dark money.
Exactly, and that's spot on. That 58% of Americans polled by The Economist, and the results were posted yesterday, say
Yeah.
that the 1.7 trillion is not enough. They favor the 4 trillion. 58% of Americans want to see that, right? and 82% of Democrats and 36% of Republicans want to see this get pushed through reconciliation, because even Republicans know you cannot make this happen through negotiation.
Murray, here's the thing. It's going to be just like the COVID relief bill that went through earlier in Biden's presidency. The Republicans are going to push back and never vote for it. But when it passes, they're going to take credit for it.
And they'll
What
try
the
to. And here's
hell?
the thing. They've always done that. But
Yes.
what they do, though, is they also try to gut it, to get a bill as small as they can, get everything ripped out of it, and then still deny it from going through. So when it does pass, it's half of what it was. That's their whole trick, right? That's the gig, that's the game that they play.
So here's some of the rhetoric they're throwing out now. They're talking about they're all of a sudden deficit hawks. All of a sudden, we ran the deficit up into the stratosphere.
Inflation!
It-
We
wait,
opened
but
the
we
boogeyman
need
bag.
We do need to talk about inflation a little bit because we will have some of that as wages rise. People have more capital to use to buy things, and we're seeing that with used cars right now. Where and with houses, because the rates are so low, there's very few houses on the market to buy, and because lumber is so high, there's just nothing out there, right? As somebody who's in the process of buying a house right now, we were going to build, and it was cheaper for us to buy twice the size house, right? So that's what we went with, and not that I need that big a house. That Stan and I will have 2 floors we'll never go on, but I'm sure the cat will find its way up there, But so inflation is kind of in moderation, is a sign of a healthy economy with a healthy base of people with money to spend. They
And you're
can
right, Heidi. But
hard at
you
work.
listen up, guys. Heidi nailed it on the head. Inflation is not a bad thing. It is like the boogeyman that the Republicans keep in their
Yeah.
boogeyman
Oh, yeah.
bag
Yeah.
that includes deficit, like Heidi said, deficit hawks. That includes states' rights, unless the states, they don't like what the states are doing.
Right.
That's the boogeyman bag, the red herring bag, the
Yeah.
false causation bag. And they have these same tropes that they come up with. Yes, it's the boogeyman bag. I'm going to throw out deficit. Your great grandchildren will be paying for everything.
My great grandchildren are going to be paying for the Trump tax cuts. I'm paying for Reaganomics. You're paying for Reaganomics, and so are our kids. So bite me, Republicans. It's time to make a pathway for every American to reach the American dream. It's not just yours.
Absolutely
It's not just
Heidi.
yours.
No. They think it is, and remember, they're the ones that make the rules. They're the ones trying to make it harder for people to vote. They're the ones restricting rights in every capacity except for guns, which apparently have more rights than individual human beings if you live in several states. all of these conservative states are doing these huge drives and pushes, which is going to bring us to the Supreme Court. And somebody is going to actually have to make a decision on this. And in the way it's looking, it's not looking really good. So that is
Look
why
at what,
legislation is so important.
you know, watching Texas
We're doing
implode.
Tex
Uh,
ass on Thursday,
we did
folks.
Texas already, and now
We got
they're
to do Tex
Tex
ass.
assier. They're
We've done
Tex assier.
Florida part like 9,000. Haven't we even done a Texassier already? I think we need a
We did Texas
Texassier.
a few weeks. Yeah, we're going to do a Texassier because that's where they're headed. And every time we talk about school shootings, I want to bring us around town and back to George W. Bush, who's the reason for this. He is the catalyst. It was him that started all of this. It was him. W, I'm looking at you, and you know it's true. And one day, Murray, promise me when we do Texassier, I can do my dissertation on why this is all W's fault.
Okay, I will certainly remind you. So,
It's a
guys,
short one.
apparently we'll have that to look forward to coming up here. But
It's all
we have
W's
to
fault.
understand. Mitch McConnell said a couple of weeks ago, that there is no way that 100 or that he said 100% of our effort is going to be put toward blocking the Biden infrastructure plan. Not one Republican would vote for it. So why is the White House even talking to these senators on this committee who half of them are insurrectionists and the other half are backbenchers that have never come out of the shell before? What is it? It makes you very frustrated to wonder exactly what shenanigans McConnell is up to behind the scenes. And luckily, I think that the White House knows enough and is ready for him.
McConnell is an artist in disrupting the progress and progression of democracy. He is an artist, and he helps make people think that if he can help you, Mr. 47,299 in Marseilles, Illinois, feel superior to someone in Jackson, Mississippi, who makes $39,999 and has a different color skin than you, then you will get on board and do whatever Mitch McConnell thinks is right for you. But I'm going to tell you something. Mitch McConnell would like you to earn less. He would like to give his wealthy backers more. And I'm going to tell you why. Marie and I talked a little bit about this in pre-show. When you go to Congress, your starting salary, and your salary remains the same, is $170,000 per year. And on top of that, there's a crap ton of perks. There is expenses for your office. There's expenses for your staff. There's expenses
for travel.
Even your gas is covered. You can write off your license plates for any vehicle you drive. You come from a big state. Say you're a senator from Texas. And Ted Cruz, you drive all over Texas and you have a huge expense account. So when the shit hits the fan, you fled Cruz. I mean, you get on a plane and fly to Mexico, right? Because that's what you do. You're so out of touch with the people that earn less than $60,000 a year. And I was trying to find a national average for income. Most of us, the majority of us, make less than our congressmen. The majority of us. And I don't mean a little bit less. I mean $130,000 less. So I want you to put on your thinking cap and I want you to picture what would happen to your household if you made $130,000 more this year and had a giant expense account that paid pretty much for everything. Your life would be so much different. You would lose touch with the people who make your pizza at Casey's, who mix your drink at the bar, who bag your groceries at the grocery store. You have nothing in common with them economically anymore. And I'm telling you that there are people, we have a state representative that lives a couple towns east of me who's never had like a normal job. He's always worked for the state in one capacity or a municipality in one capacity or the other. So now he's under 30 and he doesn't know what it's like to earn an average income among the people that he represents. And that's not uncommon. I have to say both representatives in our area and our state senator in my area have no idea, have never had to live on the average income for a family of four. Never. Not once. Not once. So when they make legislation, they don't count you in because they only count themselves in. It's
And
all about
those they associate with. And they don't
right.
associate with you because you're not in that tier. And once you're a congressperson,
Oh,
access to you becomes more limited and you hang out with
yeah.
people who can give you money and everything changes, which, we've talked about that in previous episodes that, um, can't, the danger with being elected and is that you lose touch with people in your district, that you don't knock doors anymore. Because
No.
instead of knocking doors, you're making phone calls to raise money to be able to
Yep.
run commercials. And it's that same mentality that you talk about, Heidi, and it affects Democrats as well as Republicans. We've
Oh
got
yeah.
Democratic senators popping up and complaining, but it does. It puts them out of touch with reality. It puts them out of touch
They have
with,
nothing in common with you anymore. They don't know what it's
and
like.
so their interest, and it's interesting, Heidi, you and I
Yeah.
know many, many politicians, and
Oh
we
yeah.
know many elected
Yeah.
officials and have talked at length to a lot of very
Hmm.
different ones. And even those who are the most humble and down to earth are the ones who will be able to be surprised at something that they learn because they're still in touch and they're like, oh, dang, I didn't know it was that way. But those others can't even see the inequity that is there because they're not exposed to it. Like you said, they're isolated from it.
They don't
And
know
when
what
they
it's like
make
to have.
legislative decisions, they're
Yeah.
not doing it with your interest. They're doing it with their donors, with the corporations, and those that fund their campaigns.
This is why. This is why, as a person who makes her living in agriculture, this is why the largest subsidized program we have in the entire United States is in agriculture. Not my end of agriculture, but if you plant corn, beans, wheat, sorghum, raise cattle, raise pork, your subsidies, your government check is so much larger because we have to prevent you from losing money. But by preventing you from losing money, we give you so much more because the Republicans want those votes. And
And
they've
we
created,
are, and yes, and we
yeah,
keep costs artificially deflated. So you can't talk about
right.
anything being actually what it is. It's all
Your
manipulated.
Fritos
And
might cost $5 a bag if they don't subsidize corn. God help,
exactly,
God help us all.
exactly, right? And the whole system is a kerfuffle. But I do believe that what Joe Biden is doing right now in these plans is trying to set right a ship that hasn't been maintained for 100 years. We never changed.
Yeah,
Reconstruction didn't work. We
no,
never moved past the Eurocentric capitalistic ideology that is our nation. And this is how we start leveling that playing field, which we should have been doing incrementally over the last 100 years. But you see, European Christian white dudes can only see what's happened in the past and how that's going to work to help them. Where everybody else who hasn't been on the receiving end of that can see this is not working for everyone else. 55% of Americans, folks, think Biden needs to go bigger. There gotta be some Republicans in there somewhere.
oh,
That tells you something. That what
there's
you
been some
see in
insurrectionists in
Congress,
there somewhere.
yes, there are. And it tells you what you see in Congress is not what reality is. And it's up to
No,
us to make sure that we let people know that's not real. What you're seeing is smoke and mirrors. It's the boogeyman bag.
yeah,
It's whoosh. I'm gonna throw out a landmine word that gets everybody hot and bothered. Don't
right.
buy the hype.
Murray, we went through this with Reconstruction, and then Lincoln was shot, and Reconstruction was officially shot at the same time. We went through this with FDR, and FDR died in office, and everything died with it, right? And since his death, the Republican Party's goal has been just to dismantle the social safety net of the Great Society that FDR was the architect of. We have a new opportunity right now as we recover from COVID to take our country in a bigger direction. and stop the obstruction of the Republican Party to keep people in its place. Reaganomics was nothing but a trickle down to make sure that we retained the hierarchy and put the people back into the feudal system. That was the whole
Reaganomics was
goal.
a mastermind genius plan to see how far they could push existing laws and keep people underfoot until they revolted. And people are revolting. And yes, humans are revolting, as in disgusting, because humans I don't equate with. People are revolting, as in I'm tired of your bullshit, it's time to kick your ass. And that is what we need to continue being, guys. Keep up that pressure. Let
Yeah.
people know about it. Let them know that they're being duped because it is a scary time, even though we've gotten past. We're seeing signs of things of dictatorships, and democracy is only one vote away from not existing anymore. So we need
Oh
to
my
tell our
gosh.
legislators, our friends, what's right
Yeah.
and what's good. Don't buy the hype.
Don't buy the hype. We are at the precipice of something great here, and we can either keep going up and become better, or we can roll back down the hill and be what we were in the past, which wasn't real good.
And we're going to
We're
be
right.
better. We're going to be better. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Hey, like, subscribe, and share. I haven't seen you. You, right there. Yeah, you. I haven't seen you subscribe yet or follow us on Facebook, and you are missing out. So make sure that you do that. Hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube, hit the follow button if you're on Facebook, and if you're on podcasts, download all of them or on Duncast USA. You can also hear our independent radio show, Heartland Mamas Unrolled, off of our website. So please, Tuesdays and Thursdays, join us live. Check out our deep dives, and we always love to hear from you. Heartland Mamas.
MAMAS.com. We'll see you on Thursday, where we talk about Tex Assier.
Tex Assier. And Greg Abbott is Satan. Bye!
I thought DeSantis was Satan, but
No, 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 no. People make that mistake all the time.